Vinita. A very warm welcome to all of you on the eighth webinar in our self leadership series. Over the past sessions, we have been on a journey of reflection and discovery, explaining how self leadership begins from within and how it shapes the way we live, work, and relate to others. Each conversation that Anil has had with us has opened up new insights, and today's dialogue promises to take us a little more deeper. The theme for this session is overcoming fears to source creativity. Fear is something we all encounter in moments of uncertainty, in the face of challenge, or when we step into something which is unknown. And yet, it is often in these very moments that creativity can emerge. If only we learn to acknowledge our fears and not to be held back by them. Creativity, after all, is not just about art or innovation, drawing and painting and dance. It is also about seeing possibilities, finding new ways forward, and living with imagination and courage. So, today, to help us explore this, we are privileged to have Mr. Anil Sachdev, the founder and chairman of Soil, with us today. Anil has dedicated his life to reimagining education and leadership, creating spaces where individuals can discover their true potential and lead with purpose, authenticity, and compassion. His deep belief in nurturing the whole person, the mind, body, and soul, makes him the perfect guide for a conversation on overcoming fears and unlocking creativity. Joining him in this dialogue, we have got two distinguished co panelists, Mr. S. Deen Dayalan, whom we fondly call Deen, and Ms. Kanupriya Sekhri. Let me take you through their introduction. Dean is currently traveling and would be reaching his hotel in the next couple of minutes, but we are honored to have you, Dean. He is a seasoned leader, educator, and storyteller. He is the chairman and CEO of Skill Academy India, as well as shareholder and CEO of Skill Academy Vietnam, based out of Ho Chi Minh City, while continuing his deep roots in Bangalore. Dean has had a distinguished career, having worked with leading organizations such as Titan, ITC, and DuPont, and he currently serves as an independent director at Kaplan Point Laboratories. He is an alum of the Madras School of Social Work and brings both professional rigor and human sensitivity to every role he takes in. Beyond his academic journey, he is deeply committed to education and leadership, and as a visiting faculty and mentor at SOIL, he has inspired countless number of students and professionals. What makes him truly special is his gift as a storyteller, and he has written hundreds of inspiring stories about individuals who have risen from humble backgrounds and have created extraordinary lives. We are happy to have you here, Dean, and we are privileged because your experience and stories to enrich our dialogue on overcoming fears with sourcing creativity will go miles ahead. We are delighted to have Ms. Kanupriya Sekhri as well. Kanu is an accomplished business mindset coach and is an alum of IIM Bangalore. She has dedicated her career to helping people uncover their inner story, release limiting beliefs, and step into a life of authentic success and happiness. She has personally coached more than 800 individuals one-on-one. Her special expertise lies in family constellations and inner child work, powerful methodologies that help people break free from patterns that no longer serve them and embrace their most authentic selves. She has also been a part of Soil in the past for 7 years and more recently has been mentoring entrepreneurs worldwide. Her work is deeply aligned with today's theme, which is overcoming fears to source creativity. And we are honored to have you, Kanu. I hope you are feeling better today and you are in better health.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. And I'm Vinita. I work with Soil in the area of academics and I teach finance. I don't know how creative I am, but yeah, we'll explore it through the session. To open the session, I would like to welcome Anil and would like to hear some opening remarks from you.
Thank you very much. Today is the birthday, 101st birthday of my mother. We celebrate today as the day which we call Magi, Mother as Guru Initiative. My mother was deeply spiritual very truthful, deeply committed, and completely fearless. Creativity happened through her, whether it was through music or new ways of getting the family organized or storytelling to children and our grandchildren, which brought the best out of them. So it's a very special day for me personally, 101st birthday of my mother, who was with us till 2017. And I just want to say that the fears that we have mostly are developed in childhood. Between the age group of 5 to 15, fears are developed by parenting and by schooling. Parenting and schooling are the cause of fears. And even though we celebrate mother as the first guru, a lot of mothers help in removing fears, but some of them, as the children grow older, also manage to put fears into the children's hearts, which blocks their creativity. Similarly, teachers do that. With little tiny tots, children are they are being loved a lot by their teachers in daycare, for example, or in early Montessori, for example, education. But as they get older, the children begin to get so-called discipline. And in that environment of so-called regimentation and discipline, fears are also born. So how do you create spaces where the fears are not there is a lot to do with the early childhood conditioning. So when we discuss fears today, we must remember that the roots of the fears are in those 10 years between 5 and 15. And it would be nice for us to examine that what those fears are and what can we do. But the most beautiful thing is we can remove the fears anytime we know that we have the fears. We can consciously overcome the fears and become extraordinarily creative. So my promise to each one and every person is, if you are willing to take the journey of recognizing what your fears are and facing them, I promise you, you can overcome them and you can become extraordinarily creative. That's what I would just like to say in the opening few lines of this episode today.
Thank you, Anil. I would now like to invite Kanu to ask her questions.
Thanks, Vinita, and I'm so glad to be here. Anil has always, been so great at sharing ideas, sharing stories, and nurturing all of us in our personal growth and professional growth. So I'm really honored to share the space with Dean, Anil, and you, Vinita. I was recently reading a book, Anil, called Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. As a coach, facilitator, and even as a mother, as you're pointing out, I'm very curious about potential and growth. And one of the things that I found very interesting in Adam's book was how he talks about organizations being able to put into practice some specific rituals or methods that can help individuals come up and share their creative ideas without fear. I remember one that stood out for me particularly was brain writing instead of brainstorming. And this probably stood out because I've always been an extrovert who shares my ideas in any meeting. But I often used to feel that there's so many who are quiet and aren't sharing their ideas for fear maybe of being judged or being wrong. So when you ask them to write their ideas rather than share them, then they can overcome the fear. And that way, the organization can get ideas from everybody, even if they're not confident enough to share. The other idea that really stuck for me was that when you have a new idea and you're trying to find a sponsor or a mentor within your organization, you're not limited to just your immediate superior or your department. You're free to go anywhere to anyone in the organization. And if you can find a sponsor anywhere, your idea is going to fly. That's what another organization did. And I'm really curious in this context, with all your experience, Anil, working with organizations, what are some of the fears that really block people from sharing their creative ideas? And what practices or rituals can organizations deploy to help people overcome this and share more creative ideas so that we can get to better problem solving, whether at an organization level, institute level, or country level? I think this is so important. So I'd love to hear some ideas from you.
There are 5 fears that I would like to talk about. But the most common one is the fear of lack of time and resources. People say we don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the resources. This is the most common. You talk to any CEO, yes, this idea is great, but this is not the time. We don't have the bandwidth. This is your most favorite sentence and most commonly cited. The second, which people don't articulate, but they talk about the fact that our context is different. You don't appreciate that in our context, these new ideas are not going to work, because hidden behind that sentence that this is not relevant to us, our industry, our segment, our state of growth, etc., is this profound, deep inside fear of failure. That if we were to do this, what if we were to fail? It's because it's so deeply ingrained in us that we have to win all the time and we have to be successful, that failure appears like a taboo, especially in India, especially in those organizations which are trying to implement big ideas from elsewhere. So even if you see in all the wonderful internet companies that are coming up, we seem to get an original idea from Silicon Valley, we adapt it to India, and then we scale it up. So we are afraid of inventing our own ideas because there is something, this deep fear that, what if I fail? I remember my very first meeting with Pramod Bhasin, who was heading GE in India and Genpact and Capital. He told me, Anil, I have these top flight MBAs I hire from all the best business schools and, from top engineering school, IITs and so on. He says, my Indian managers are so risk averse that when they are investing money on a different portfolio, they're always scared and they treat it as if it's their own money. And because they come from very humble background, many of them, and from middle class families, they're always concerned, what if something goes down? What if I fail? And he said, this mindset is not there in, for example, United States, in places like Silicon Valley, where there is abundance of money available, abundance of resources available. And so there is no scarcity. And because there is no scarcity, people are quite happy to take risk on behalf of the company, because they don't treat it as if, oh, this is my money and we don't have enough in the family, things like that. So this is also a cultural issue here, that fear of failure in countries which are still emerging countries, developing countries, where capital is scarce, resources are scarce. We are almost too careful to say we cannot take these significant risks. And so the fear of failure. But the one which has very deep-rooted childhood memories because of parenting not being proper or effective is when children are compared one with the other when they are growing up. And they are reminded, you are not as smart as your brother or sister, or you're not as smart as your uncle's daughter, or you're not as smart as the neighbor's child. So there is this feeling of inadequacy, there's a feeling of criticism, that maybe I'm not good enough. And if even if this comparison that you do even by chance, that you say, look at that person, and you keep praising that other child who's not your child. And I'm not saying you should give praise when it is not due. I'm not saying that children need to be praised for ordinary achievement so that they don't understand what a true great achievement is. Because that also goes to the other extreme. But I'm saying to be with the child who's trying something new without judging that child. So this fear of criticism is the number 3. Number 4 fear, which is particularly very true in my friends who are engineers and accountants and finance people, is the fear of ambiguity. You see, because anything which is not linear, anything which cannot be quantified, anything which cannot be put into an equation, they are very apprehensive about. So, for example, if you are doing a leadership workshop for the top team, you can bet the finance guy will say, what's the structure of this session? What's going to happen over the next 2 days? And the question will be asked, what is the ROI on this investment? Why are we taking 2 days of the leadership time? Because when you talk about things like collaboration will go up, he says, what does that mean? When you say this group will have greater diversity and you will have greater innovation. They say, what do we mean? So there is this thing about allergy to ambiguity, as my dear friend Pradeep Khandwala will talk about. And then there is one last thing that I want to talk about, which is very unusual. It is linked to the multiple intelligence work of Howard Gardner, who a few years back named learning from intelligence, learning from nature as a new form of intelligence, learning from nature. And there are some of us who are scared of the outdoors. They don't want to go, they will not go to a stream, they will not climb a mountain, they will not jump into the sea, they will not climb a tree, they are scared of animals. There are some of us who don't like the outdoors for whatever reason. Maybe they were too protected during their childhood. Maybe they were never taken to a river to swim. Maybe they were never shown how to go on a hike. Maybe they never learned to cycling on their own. Whatever is the reason, they are scared of outdoors and they live in a very protected environment. And that is a very serious kind of block, because Mother Nature and being in the outdoors is the highest form of creativity, actually. And those of us who are blocked in that sense are denying ourselves the possibility of learning from Mother Nature every day. So I would like to talk. There are a few others which are important, but let me just stop at these 5 for the moment.
Great.
Just have a quick follow-up question, Anil, that with your work with organizations, and you can take any of these for the context, but what are some of the best practices that they put in place to help people really speak up and overcome these fears? Anything that comes to your mind that we can do?
Yeah, I think to overcome the fear of lack of time and resources, we really need people to be made aware of what Dr. C.K. Prahlad used to say, that when your aspirations are higher than your resources, innovation will occur. Now, what is meant by that? You have to generate that collective aspiration inside an organization, and you have to start with what they are good at. And you have to ask them to dream what they can do possibly with what they have, rather than worry about what they don't have. So a lot of things can happen because of that. Number 2, to overcome the fear of failure, I think the best way to overcome that, to have a budget for experimentation in an organization. Just like in your own life, you can put aside some of your money for experimentation. When you do a budget for experimentation and you learn out of that, you are not exposing the entire balance sheet, but you are creating a special fund for experimentation and learning without expecting any immediate results. So that's a very good way of doing it, and many organizations are learning to do that. As far as learning from criticism is concerned, the best is to learn to have authentic feedback to create a sense of learning communities inside the organization, of what Peter Senge used to call communities of practice. And in the more recent internet world, there are all kinds of young people are collaborating, where they are forming teams in all kinds of interesting internet environment. When you learn to continuously give each other feedback and take feedback, you use feedback as a source of learning and growth, and you are no longer worried about people criticizing you, because you are used to getting feedback on your ideas. And always it helps to talk to a mentor who would be very authentic with you and show you the mirror and give you honest feedback. When it comes to this whole thing about ambiguity, the best is to introduce deliberately exposure to new experiences which are non-linear, which are wonderful, like a poetry workshop in a leadership program, like a musical performance in a finance and strategy meet, like bringing an historian to talk as a keynote speaker in your annual conference, consciously calling an anthropologist to talk to you about how ideas in anthropology can make that. So deliberately introducing interesting quality inputs which catch people's imagination and helps them to overcome allergy to ambiguity. And of course, as far as nature is concerned, I think consciously choosing a location of your offsites or arranging regular visits and encouraging employees to not just go to the usual spots with their families, but encouraging them to explore new things, go to the forest area, go for hikes. So as families and teams, when you encourage them to learn from the outdoors, and there are many organizations who are sending people. I remember when Unilever was a bit getting limited in its innovation in categories, they sent a large number of leaders with an organization into these forest areas where they would live together, camp together, and discuss how they could source new ideas for generating innovation. So I think these were some extremely good ways to do that and some very practical ways to do that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kanu. I would now like to invite Dean with his questions.
Dean, go ahead. You have to unmute, Dean. You have to unmute.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you for the opportunity. I consciously chose fear, but in all leadership conversations, we talk about IQ and EQ. And somewhere, most of the breakthrough changes have happened through GQ, that is the gut quotient. And somewhere we don't leverage gut quotient. And of course, CSQ, I talk about common sense quotient, which is very uncommon. And even AI, I see a very interesting chat question from Anil Grover, how AI is creating fear. Because we are teaching students for placement, not for entrepreneurship. And every one of them have this gut quotient. What do we do different?
Yeah. You see, first of all, it's also the occasion of Ganesh Chaturthi and Ganesha festival. And if you see the metaphor of Lord Ganesh and the body of Ganesh, that he has 2 ears to listen. He has these big eyes to absorb. He's got these 2 tusks, which are both the emotional mind and the intellectual mind, and a big trunk, which is a discerning mind. And then he has a big belly in which all the ideas and thoughts are being assimilated and generated to gain new eyesights. And Ganesha is always mindful of the mouse, the ego, which will take you away. Now, why this is important as a metaphor is for us to understand, to invoke this intuition and creative part of yourself, what you are calling the gut, intelligence and the creativity. It's very important for people to learn to observe their own selves. That means teams that learn to observe themselves, teams that learn to reflect and to understand how their own minds are preventing them to create something significant. When they are able to observe how their own mind is coming in the way of the best possible within them. So this conversations about understanding how inside your own mind there are some conditions, which we will talk about later in this episode series, which we call the immunity to change, why people are finding it difficult. That's one. Second, to learn to enable people to practice mindfulness and live in the present moment. Because if you are not worried about tomorrow, or if you are not too regretful about yesterday, as the Dalai Lama says, the only 2 days when you can do nothing about is yesterday and tomorrow. And the only day that matters is today, right now, this present moment. So to helping people to embrace the joy that when you are fully present and when you are not worried about the future, you find it easy, like children do, to get into flow. And when that happens, when you can have that childlike playfulness, then it is very natural for what you call the gut to emerge, the intuition to emerge. So practice of mindfulness is such an important part. And by the way, there are some very, very practical ways of doing that. And I think therefore this importance of storytelling. A powerful story can unleash people's potential told in the right time, not some long sermon of a story, but something like a story which really touches the hearts of people, opens up the channel inside them, and they begin to explore new things from within them to make it come alive. As you know, there is a lot of research done on extrasensory perception, parapsychology, psychology, intuition. So that's all about how to relax your mind and prepare it for being more creative. But at the same time, that's all dealing at the mind level. What the Indian wisdom traditions teach us is that actually you are a storehouse of creativity. because the entire universe is waiting to be born from inside you, because you are that unlimited consciousness yourself. This ability of human beings to tap to their inner potential to say, I am that pure creativity. I am the creator. I am Brahma. I am the one which can destroy all the ignorance and Shiva. That I can be the one who can be the sustainer of all great ideas and Vishnu. This whole triology that we talk about, and also Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati, the whole conversations about the three, the triology. In the Indian tradition, we are taught that you are not the limited body and mind that you are trying to sort of be conditioned by, but when you free yourself from that conditioning, then you can achieve whatever you can dream about achieving, you can manifest that. You can develop the siddhis as we talk about. And therefore, I think some of the biggest innovators in the world, the way they have overcome fears is learning to go beyond the limitations of their mind. And many of them naturally turn to meditation. Then naturally, I think Steve Jobs talks about this amazing visit that he made to Rishikesh and to the Himalayas when he was at the highest form of innovation in his life. Similarly, there are so many other, one of the world's top innovators, I hear the person came to Neem Karoni Baba in India, and there he had a profound experience that made him free of his ego and all his fears. So I think that exploration of a deep spiritual kind is also extraordinarily powerful to make you free of all the fears and to make you ready for that gut level quotient that you are talking.
Yeah, supplementary question is, even in MBA institutions or industries, we do not encourage risk-taking and celebrate failures. And therefore, crowd thinking and conformity becomes a way of life.
I completely agree with you, because the predictable model of a business school is get good quality talent into the school, give them what the industry wants, and make them ready and make them get good placement so that your reputation of the school becomes better. And that is a normal, predictable model that everybody follows. I think it takes some courage for a business school to say, and it takes courage for students to say, I'm not looking for employment, I want to be an employee. So this encouragement to become entrepreneurs, which you are talking about. And Dean, you have such powerful stories. And I think I'd like you to just now share at least one story of somebody who came out of nowhere and with extremely humble backgrounds and went on to become an extraordinary entrepreneur. I know that in this movement I want to talk about, and I think, a few years back I did a research. I wrote to all the CEOs and said, I want to understand what is your learning agenda. We are doing research on the learning agenda of CEOs. So Sanjeev met, and I also asked a question, what is that one person you would like to learn from? So, I was absolutely stunned that Sanjeev Mehta of Unilever, who had just taken over as the CEO and chairman of Levers in India, he wrote to me that he wants to learn from this entrepreneur in Coimbatore, the man who invented that Padman, the movie Padman, the entrepreneur behind it. Dean, you know about it. So perhaps can you share for a moment a story maybe about Padman or someone else who had no such formal background like MBA, but did some extraordinary things because the person taught himself, which is a big lesson for us in business school. Do you want to share that for a minute? Okay?
Sure, Anil. I think I would talk about a porter in Bangalore railway station. His name is Shanmugappa. He wrote a letter to Mr. Abdul Kalam. Don't think you are the son of a boatman. There are several people like you. You are hobnobbing with Bollywood people. And such an unfair letter, and Abdul Kalam being Abdul Kalam, he invited him to come and meet him. He writes back, because you are inviting me, should I come? Please send me the airfare. And he is an 8th standard school dropout, influenced by Ramakrishna Mission on Awake and Arise, and worked as a porter for 5 years, bought a Matador van. Now he owns 100 trucks. He is a partner in this on Levers. He goes to Abdul Kalam to reduce the bank financing of truckers, saying the entire supply chain cost will come down if bank finance truckers. Industries have an NPA, truckers have no NPA. But private finance companies do the financing. Even now that is not solved. And your first tag is because of him. He went to Nitin Gadkari and gave a research data of how much money is wasted on diesel waiting for the toll passing. So he's only 8th standard. He can't speak English. He can speak Hindi, Tamil, Kannada, Telugu. So I took him to a visioning session for Sachdev, Tata Sachdev. They said, what this fellow can give us suggestion. You are bringing that person. I said, first come first, we have wasted 1 hour. He gave them 2 product ideas. No vehicle should operate between 2 and 3 a.m. because he has done a research that 72 truck drivers died during that time. So it should automatically stop. Second is give a dashboard for all truckers. Can you create a dashboard that will stop diesel theft? So if you look at his qualification, look at him, he looks himself like a thug. And he, before Anna Hazare did, he started fighting corruption. He brings out a magazine showing the photographs of corrupt RTO office.
Fantastic. Very good. Very good. Thank you very much, Dean. Thank you for that beautiful example.
He is my mentor also.
Thank you. Thank
Great.
you very much. Vinita, over to you. Yeah.
Yes, I have a question, Anil. We discussed that we fear judgment, while putting across our thoughts. So how can a person build the resilience to overcome, this barrier to creativity, especially in scenario of power distance? It could be, a boss versus subordinate. It could be a teacher versus student. And now, especially in the age of AI, when we always feel that probably AI is going to generate something better than what I have in my mind. So how to overcome this barrier and come, leave it behind and come up with a creative self?
Out of my personal practice, I knew that the source of overcoming resilience issues is compassion and self-compassion. So I was practicing that for a long time, and then I began to research what is the correlation between resilience and compassion. And then I found a lot of research which actually reinforced my own practice for a long time. See, anytime I used to feel a bit hurt, I would find some cause to serve. So instead of feeling and putting the focus on my own hurt, I would start getting involved in serving others. And it worked wonders for me. After some time, I forgot of my own feeling hurt. And I said, oh, my issue was so trivial. I think resilience becomes low because you feel dejected, something has not worked out. And particularly when somebody has made some personal comments about you, questioning not your work, but your intention. The one which hurts people the most is when you challenge their character or their values or their intention. But the other way is that if somehow my actions appeared like that, then I have to ask myself, it's okay, I goofed up. Maybe I came across as somebody who was not very trustworthy in that moment because I just goofed up. And then instead of saying that, why did the person question my intention? Maybe I need to understand what was the impact I was having by my actions. And how would I imagine the other person knows my intention? The person only sees my action, and if my actions were not in line with what I had committed or promised or talked about, I think it leads to a lack of integrity. So when that resilience becomes low because people are giving you a feedback which you are taking it like a personal attack on you or criticism, I think practicing self-compassion and saying it's okay, it's only my action that I goofed up, but inside I know that my intention is pure and that I know that I can bounce back from this and I can use this. Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda, today's 28th calendar, I have this thought of the day. His thought of the day is, a successful man is one who can lay a firm foundation with the bricks that others throw at him. He will build a strong foundation at the bricks that the people throw at him. That means it's okay. You want to criticize my actions, it's fine. You want to challenge me, it's fine. You want to say I'm not good enough, it's fine. Let me accept that. Now I know in my deep heart that actually what I am capable of. And so I will use this opportunity where I have faltered and fallen down to say, I'm not going to give up because I'm not going to lose hope. I'm not going to lose trust in myself because I think there is that old Hindi song which I refer to in one of the episodes ki, if in your own eyes you fall, agar aap apne hi nazar mein girne lago, I think it's a old song of Mukesh, I think, from the Pura Pashchim or somewhere, that movie where Manoj Kumar is singing, ये मेरा दर खुला है तुम्हारे लिए, that song. And in that there's a beautiful sentence I never forget, that अपने ही नजर में जब गिरने लगो, which means you should not fall in your own eyes. And so the key to resilience is compassion and self-compassion and believing that whatever action you may have performed, there is always life after that. And I think it's Rumi who said that beyond right and wrong, there is a field. Come and meet me there. So I think there is that beautiful aspect of embracing that part and learning from that.
Great. Just a simple follow-up questions for my students.
Yeah.
The younger generation typically, ponders a lot when somebody criticizes them, or, they feel targeted at times. This targeted word is very frequently used by them nowadays. So any simple technique which they can apply in their day-to-day life to take feedback in a more positive sense and retain their creative uses within.
I think this reason this happens in high sensitivity is that many of them are not used to having face-to-face interaction with people a lot, because many of them are interacting digitally and are quite happy in creating exclusive small spaces to hang around with like-minded people. I think the more we encourage them to step out, have real conversation in groups, participating in sports is a fantastic way, especially touch sports. So participating in sports is a very, very beautiful form, because young people, when they participate in sports, fall down, learn down, do those touch sports, what it teaches them is an enormous understanding. And when a coach with credibility tells that young person to get up and to take responsibility, they are very happy to listen to that person, because they know this is a high performance coach. He's helping me to raise my game, and they are willing to do that. So I think in many of our academicians need to learn how a sports psychologist or how a sports coach teaches young people. Very young gymnasts who are very young people, for example, very young players, even very young cricketers, which is, of course, my favorite game. So I think we can learn a lot from sports. The other thing we can learn from is really the outdoors. So I encourage, when you involve students in a project, when they are hanging around with people who are not like them, especially getting young people to work with people who are differently able. When people are visually impaired, when somebody is not able to hear, when somebody has got, all kinds of other issues. And when you make them work with such people, all of a sudden they realize, oh my God, look at this person, and this person is carrying on with life so beautifully. And here I complain of small thing that somebody said to me this. So I think including what soil does in exposing them to social innovation. So when they are really asked to study how people with such unfortunate contexts are still so happy because they are doing something with their life, all of a sudden they realize that whatever the little thing they are feeling hurt about is such a trivial issue, that they begin to take responsibility for who they are. And then they begin to come back and thank their own parents and thank their teachers. Today I went and saw this, I have never seen human beings with these kinds of issues. So I really came back and said, God, you are very kind that we live in an environment which is so different from what these people are living in. So that's such an important part.
That's pretty insightful, sir. Now I would like to invite Mr. Anil Grover to ask his question. He has put his question in the chat box, and my question was earlier on similar lines on the impact of AI. But Anil sir, over to you.
Sure. So, Anil, what I have been observing
Yeah,
is
till
that,
I can put spotlight on Anil Grover. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, what I have been observing is even in the last few months or last 1 to 2 years, some very interesting phenomena is happening where very profitable product companies are shedding people. The services companies are also not having, and suddenly the 0 to 3 year experienced people are finding it very difficult to get in the door because the people who, let's say, 3 to 8 year experienced people say, I can get that work done through an AI. And then people in the 30s and 40s are experiencing that suddenly the middle level jobs are significantly changing also. And people in the 50s are feeling we are not actually now required to in the company. So in effect, whether you are 21 or you are 55, across the spectrum, the nature of jobs, the nature of industries are significantly getting disrupted, which will only accelerate in the next couple of years. So with that context, the I am just curious to know from your stories and anecdotes, how are you seeing this, and how would you actually share something which allows for people to be inspired to transcend the fears they may be experiencing, which are also context influenced?
This is an old story, what we are talking about. Now we are calling it AI. Earlier we called it something else. But every few years there is a huge wave of disruption of some kind. And technology is generally is the cause for this disruption. And we have seen it over time. This whole thing plays itself out. What I have learned about this, that if an individual has only developed one capacity, which is a capacity to learn, if you can keep on improving the way you learn, and if you keep on putting the right quality of effort with complete sincerity, then no matter what comes your way, because you have mastered the capacity to learn, and because you have a pure heart and sincerity, and you are willing to put in the best effort, I think nothing can stop you. You will invent yourself. Technology wants something from you, you will learn that. Some new thing is thrown to you, you will learn that. After all, even some very senior people. I know my dear friend Shailendra Kumar, who's a co-founder of Soil board member. When he was in his 60s, he started writing code. He never learned programming earlier. He made his own website when he was in his 60s. So I know some very senior citizens who are so curious about technology, who begin to invent things. Many years back, I met this guy called Fernando, who is the inventor of the first Intel chip, right? He was the original founder of that chip. He came and talked to us in our global leadership program. He said, all my life I was focusing on creativity and innovation. And now that I have just entered my 60s, I felt that I had wasted the part of my life. Yes, I am called the first guy who invented the Pentium chip and all that. Federico, whatever his full name is. But he said, last 3 years, I'm only studying consciousness. I've given up all the study of the outer world. I have given up all the studies of the latest Singularity University that he was associated with. And I'm only studying consciousness, because I realized that if I can only understand who I am and truly source that consciousness from within me, I think all this will then be enabled. I will find that I'll become a channel to serve higher purpose in life. There's something very beautiful that from a young people, we can tell them what their true nature is, what their true potential is, how they can become channel of service, and how they can learn how to learn with purity of heart and willingness to put effort. I think many amazing things will happen.
Thank you, Anil.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a hand raised from Mr. Anand Prakash.
Yeah. Let's put the spotlight on Anand Tillai. Go ahead, Anand. Anand, are you there? Anand, are you there?
Not sure whether he's able to hear us. Anand,
Yeah,
sir,
unmute. Yeah, I was just trying to unmute. Yeah.
okay.
So, good evening, Anil. Every moment of what we are investing here is a very, very big insight. The question, after listening to all what we have been for last 45 minutes, the question which is coming to my mind is that, as you said, more we get education, or let's say more we get a higher level. See, I am an IITN, I am an IIM, I have done this, I have done that. The fear actually gets more from a social perspective, that if I'm a, let's say, eighth pass or a seventh pass, if I fail, society will not probably react. You say, okay, कोई पढ़ा लिखा था नहीं, फेल हो गया, कोई बात नहीं है। लेकिन अगर एक IITN है, IIM फेल हो गया, बोले क्या यार तुम IIT IIM के पढ़े लिखे फेल हो गए। तो ये जो सोशल प्रेशर है, which actually adds to this fear. What are your views and suggestions that this ecosystem of society actually needs to be handled? This is the thought that comes to my mind.
I think I learned from our spiritual teacher that we should learn to laugh at ourselves and with others. Learn to laugh at ourselves with others. To say, it's okay, that I'm not supposed to succeed all the time. I'm not supposed to do this. And okay, suppose something has happened. What has happened has happened. Now, what do I do with what has happened is, do I use this as an opportunity to learn because I faltered? Because life is full of ups and downs. There'll be many ups, there'll be many downs. And it's not I don't have to impress anyone else. In my own eyes, as we said earlier, if I'm satisfied that I'm putting in my best, that's all that I'm capable of. So this beautiful inner peace that you make with yourselves, that I put in my hand, I am never satisfied with my effort. Say, I want to narrate an incident when we went to meet His Holiness the Dalai Lama. We had a group of senior leaders. We were asking him a conversation about this, about what society calls success and wealth. You are so highly qualified. How come you have not reached this place? What people are implying is you have not achieved a position, you have not achieved certain monetary status.
Right.
His Holiness Dalai Lama said, see, every morning you get up, you ask yourself, what can I do to serve with the gifts that has been given to me? What can I do today to make a difference? And he says, if all your day is spent upon how you can do your best in the duties that you are performing in the role that you have been given, then keep on serving with that intention and never be satisfied with the amount of effort you are making to serve. So he says that is inner wealth. So never be satisfied with the amount of inner wealth you have. But whatever is the result you get after being your best, as Gurudev Swami Chinmananda used to say, put in your best and leave the rest. Whatever you get as a result of your best, accept it. And that is the best that could have happened. Because as our teacher always said, you get what you deserve, not what you desire. Because desires are continuously going up, particularly when people's expectations keep on going up. You do more, people expect more. They'll expect even more for you. So I think the best is to keep doing the best and leave the rest. I mean, that is the only attitude with which you will find that inner contentment and peace, that I am creating my inner wealth, that I am only answerable to my inner witness, not to everyone else who puts all these comparisons on me. That's all that matters.
No, that's interesting. So basically the target of giving, not acquiring.
Absolutely.
And secondly, what you said in the previous session, that what you give stays with you, what you acquire can go away. I think you made this statement, very profound statement in some of the previous sessions, right?
And Naushar Khurodi, my dear friend, made that statement actually. And yes, and that was an extraordinarily important statement he made. So thank you for reminding us. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
There is a similar question by Dr. R. Srinivasan in the chat box. Srinivasan sir, would you like to go ahead and ask Your question, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Risk is one of the important ingredients of being creative, especially in today's context when we are talking about entrepreneurship and innovation and so many other things where we talk about be an employment generator rather than the employment seeker. Especially in the smaller organizations, it is the performance and results are more important than being a risk taker. So I become a routine worker rather than a creative and innovative person. So what is the role of environment and support system in overcoming fears to foster creativity?
I think this network that you create around you of people that whom you can seek help from, people who wish you well, that network has to be the kind that you can give you honest feedback and advice and encourage you to focus on something that truly it matters to you. You see, and as an entrepreneur, your mind will go in 10 different directions. And you will want to this also and that also and that also, because entrepreneurs by nature are always idea creators. A good network and mentorship and an environment will help you to stay focused on what is most important, experimenting with that, learning from that before you spread your wings into many other things. So the environment has to be the one which encourages you to recognize your gifts and your strengths, understand the resources you have access to, and plan something based on what you can access, and dream with the possibility of how you can utilize your own strengths to raise the game. Because if your mind is continuously chasing dreams for which you do not necessarily have the strengths today, your aspirations may be very big, so that can be a longer term thing, and it's good to have big aspirations. But you have to start by focusing on what you are good at and making an experiment that gives you a learning opportunity so you can then scale up. As we all know, even in design thinking that we teach our students, that you have a prototype, you learn from that, then you scale up. So I think that the idea of a support system helping you to co-create and giving you honest feedback and giving you support, including a network of capability building, people who know answers because they have access to people who are doing something similar, access to people who are communities of practice, arranging to make you meet people who are also exploring similar questions. I think that is a big gift, because the biggest role that an entrepreneur needs is the right guidance of the right network and which people that persons can access and get support of. And I think one has to consciously design one's environment. It won't just happen to you like that. It's an important part for an entrepreneur to not just stay focused on the big idea that the person has, but also to consciously ask how can that person access the right network and how can the person ask for help. Because sometimes what happens is when you don't even ask for help, you never get that help. And sometimes you keep hesitating. Will this person, if I approach, will that person help me? Can I write on LinkedIn to this person? So if you write with a pure intent, actually, you may be surprised people may come to help you. But if you make it sound like, it's a very commercial kind of a pitch you are making to person saying, oh, I have this great idea which is waiting to be scaled up and I want you to be my mentor. And, it's a very aggressive form of sympathy. On the other hand, if you talk about your own dream and talk about your background and talk about why you are approaching that person, I think sometimes the purity of your conversation will help you to get that access to those people and build the environment that you are seeking. So it's all in our hands to create our environment, and not just say the environment is either conducive or not conducive.
Probably you're talking about being humble rather than being arrogant.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if you show a learning mindset and if you share something personal about yourself that touches the heart of someone. See, people get all kinds of pitches from people, but can you invoke the heart somewhere? Can you touch the heart of the person you are communicating? Yeah. So I just finished writing my book, and I was saying that I would like to get somebody to read it and get some authentic feedback. So I saw this beautiful post of Mohanbir Sani on LinkedIn, who's a professor at Kellogg. I don't know him. I've never met him, but I wrote a small message to him on LinkedIn. We are connected on LinkedIn, but just whatever few words I put in that, he said, "Sure, I'll be happy to take a look at what you have written and give you feedback." And the man actually took the effort of doing that, because I said that there is some connection. I felt that he was on an inner journey and I could relate to that inner journey, because beyond being the digital and marketing professor and one of the world's top thinkers in that area, there is some humanity in him. I saw some posts of his talking about Vipassana and going for meditation. So I could relate that there is behind that. So I began my email to him also, greeting him Sat Shri Akal, which is a Sikh thing that we do. I didn't go to the extent of doing Chardi Kala, which is another Sikh tradition to say it's all the Lord who makes you do that. I mean, that would have been becoming too intimate in my first email. But I wrote to him about a pure intent. And I think the word you use, sometimes the person is willing to have a conversation with you because it truly matters. See, I've learned one lesson in my life. I just want to share something. When the idea of Aisher Consulting was in my mind, I wrote to all the top companies in the world: McKinsey, Booz Allen, Arthur D. Little, A.T. Kearney. I wrote to their number one person. I said, I have this idea. This is my background. I am a young 32-year-old guy. This is my background. And I have this powerful idea of contributing to India's economic development. And I want to set up a think tank and a consulting company. Would you partner with me? Lo and behold, all of them wrote back to me, see, come and see us. And there I met Philip Banks, this wonderful man from A.T. Kearney, who invited me for a conversation. And he really liked what I had to say to him in Chicago. He took me for lunch at the Chicago Club. Then he told me, Anil, I like your story. I know you have not created, but it's inside your head. So I'm going to call Fred Steingraber, the chairman of A.T. Kearney. And I believe you are going back to India tomorrow. You told me you're going back via London. Is that right? I said, yes. He said, can you meet him tomorrow for breakfast at Inn on the Park in London? He is coming back after addressing the Japan Chamber of Commerce. He's stopping by in London for a few hours. Can you have breakfast with him? I said, sure. So here I go at Inn on the Park in London. I go and meet Fred Steingraber for breakfast. And Fred Steingraber tells me, can you stay for lunch? Let's have a more detailed conversation from breakfast onwards. And he cancels his flight and books a new flight, and he gets me to change my program. And there we end up spending 6 hours on the first meeting. And at the end of that, Philip Banks told me, Fred really enjoyed his conversation with you. And he says, yes, we should do something with this young man and his ideas about India. So that led to our signing a partnership. But it never worried me that you cannot speak to the chairman or founder. Similarly, whether it was right management, I wrote to the man who was the number one chairman and CEO, and I just called him on the phone and left a voicemail for him, and I got a voicemail back. I got a call back. Similarly, great places to work. What I'm saying is, if you have a pure intent and a powerful idea inside your head, you can talk to anybody that matters. And you can build your environment of the kind that you are talking about. So that's what I would like to say, because some of us hesitate. And then, yeah, go ahead.
I have a follow-up question.
Okay, last 1 minute left. Go ahead.
Yes. This may hold true for the investor, the entrepreneur, but what would you say for the employee who is working in a probably small organization or a startup, where he has to deliver results rather than being creative and being innovative? Because the company investor has put in his money, time, and as well as effort and risk also. He has taken the risk.
No, no, fantastic. I will only say creativity is not just big creativity and big innovation and step up innovation. Creativity can be how can I deliver in by thinking through new methods of delivering what I'm expected to deliver in my current role with my limited small organization today. So creativity is a mindset. Creativity is a new way of looking at things. Creativity leads in small improvement, with the Japanese called Kaizen. And creativity is a way of life of curiosity and embracing that and not being living in fear. That's all I would say. That you can have creativity in relationships. You have a fight with your wife. You can find a creative method on how to overcome, and you can be creative about how to ask for forgiveness after doing a mistake. You can be creative about how to give a gift. You can be creative about how to use the right words with people. So creativity is in every action, and it's not just in seeking some big breakthrough change. So thank you very much, Srini, and thank you everybody for
Thank you,
joining
thank you,
this.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Vinita, you want to round up?
Yes, thank you, Anil sir. It was enriching, enlightening, eye-opening all at the same time, and I thoroughly enjoyed co-hosting this session with Dean and Kanu. Thank you so much for joining in amidst, not so good health and amidst your travel. I would also like to thank all the participants for asking such wonderful questions. Thank you to Dakshita for bringing us all together. Thank you, Thilay, for the Zoom link, as well as Priyanka and Vimla for the coordination part. Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Sure.
night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.